time for another interview for Adventures in Advising. And let's welcome back Winnie Tang from UC Santa Cruz. Winnie, how have you been?
I have been doing very, very well, Matt. Thank you so much for inviting me back on the podcast. It feels really different to be on this side of the table.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for those who didn't catch Winnie's interview, you can check out episode 48 of the podcast, and that's titled Where Our Journey Takes Us. But Winnie, you're back on as a guest host this time. So I'm going to turn it over to you and to introduce our latest guest.
All right. Hello, podcast listeners. As Matt mentioned, my name is Winnie Tang, and I'm here to guest host the Adventures in Advising podcast with our very special guest today, Dr. Wendy Troxel. Wendy Troxel is the director of the NACADA Center for Research at Kansas State University and is an assistant professor in the Department of Special Education, Counseling, and Student Affairs. Wendy teaches courses in the master's program in academic advising, as well as the new PhD program in leadership in academic advising, where she currently serves as the program coordinator. And most importantly, I know Wendy because she is my mentor in the Emerging Leaders program. So I'm very grateful to get to spend some time with Wendy today. Wendy, did I leave anything out? Did you want to add anything?
Not at all. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to talk to you as always.
Yeah, of course. So I kind of just wanted to start out with hopefully it'll be a slightly easier question, which is basically, do you want to tell us about your journey into NACADA and NACADA leadership?
Wow. Well, it goes back quite a few years. I think at the time I first was introduced to NACADA, I was director of assessment at Illinois State University, and I was doing a lot of workshops and institutes and seminars in the area of assessment. And so I regularly went to another association's assessment institute, and pretty much every year was on the faculty there. Really had a good time. It was focused on first year programming and that kind of thing. And I was at dinner one night with the rest of the faculty, and I was sitting next to this man who I had never really met formally before, and he was a fun man, a fun gentleman with a Southern accent. And we started talking about, I had been at University of Alabama at Birmingham, and this man was from Georgia. And so I quickly got to know Charlie Nutt, and he told me about NACADA. I had heard a bit about it and invited me to come to the next annual conference. And so I went to the conference, and he connected me to Josh Smith, who was chair of the research committee at the time. And I kind of just sat in. It was my first conference. I didn't know anybody. And but they were very welcoming and open in their committee meetings. And so I just sat and listened, and eventually was invited to be a part of the research committee. So I was part of the research committee for a number of years, and helped especially, with the areas that I was really interested in, which was teaching methods and research to practitioners, and got involved with the research symposium, and eventually was chair of the research committee for a couple of years, and co-editor of the NACADA Journal. And then this opportunity came up for the new research center at NACADA. So I applied for the position, and it's been the joy of my academic career, really. Between that time, actually, I was a faculty member at Illinois State and teaching in those graduate programs as well. But kind of grew up through the administrative division, and particularly the research committee. But it's been a wonderful journey, and I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I love hearing that story because all of us take these really interesting pathways through NACADA leadership. You mentioned that you basically started in the research and assessment realm of things. Can you share a little bit about what is it that I'm assuming that you love those things, which is why you've dedicated your career to it. So would you like to share a little bit about like what you like about doing this kind of work? What is it about research and assessment that really draws you and inspires you to continue each day?
Yeah, man, I mean, that's kind of a journey in itself. And I started really early in my career in athletics administration, and played sports in college, and was in administration, compliance, NCAA stuff, and event management. Worked for an athletic conference on the East Coast as assistant commissioner, and then I got a job at Dartmouth College as associate athletic director. And at most of the Ivy League schools, if not all, athletics are a part of the division of student life. They're very much ingrained into the fabric of the institution. And there I got into, I was kind of the representative of the department to a number of really important student-focused groups, like the sexual assault, sexual harassment committee that did programming and interventions, that work on an alcohol and other drug task force. And so, and very much how the pressures of college affect students, and how their decisions affect their success, and really got into kind of the whole student kind of thing, and their academic pressures, their personal lives, what they bring, their diverse thought, how that is explored. And then when my husband was transferred to Birmingham, Alabama with his work, I needed to find a new position down there, and at an NCAA convention. This is kind of a long journey, but it makes sense. I met the vice president for student affairs at UAB, and she was thinking about starting an assessment program in the Division of Student Affairs, and kind of a research and assessment arm of student affairs. And I was ready to get out of athletics at that point and into more of the just really the student experience stuff. And so eventually I was hired at UAB as director of research and assessment there, and there's student affairs, and was in my doctoral program at the time, and really just got interested in the outcomes of the student experience. And so what the evidence of everything that happens to them and everything they put into it, what does that evidence look like? And I was a music major in college, and so I have kind of a creative brain, and so thinking about not just data, not just numbers, but what does it look like when a student is engaged? What does it look like when a program helps motivate a student? What are the outcomes of success for students? Not just institutional metrics like retention and graduation rates, but and it really turned me kind of into a qualitative researcher because of the context behind the numbers and the context of outcomes. And so I did that for a while, did that for the 6 years that I was at UAB, and also was in the admissions world. And then I started thinking about belonging, thinking about connections between who we recruit from high schools, from community colleges, from having taken a break as an adult and come back, and how does what a student brings to an institution map with what the institution has to offer, what the culture is of the institution. And so that got really interesting to me too, as well as obviously the academic side. Well, we moved to Central Illinois. My husband got transferred there, and Illinois State University. I had gone to grad school, got my master's there some years earlier, and they were opening a new position for university-wide assessment. And I was just finishing up my dissertation at the time, and was really just honored to get that position, which was part of the Center for Teaching and Learning. And so it was separate from institutional research. And so it really got into academic assessment at that point as well. So kind of program assessment, how intended learning outcomes are are constructed and developed, how can I help faculty kind of get what they have in their head down into some documentable form. From there, got on the faculty in the College of Education, teaching those same kinds of things. So what do I like about it? I like that the creative ways that we find evidence of whatever it is that we're looking for, and that really requires a partnership between the students as really the ultimate stakeholder, faculty, staff, and helping people understand how important it is to have intention about the interventions that they want to put in place, and know it when they see it, when there's success in that.
Oh, unmute. There we go. Wendy, that is like such an amazing journey. I've just even during our mentorship talks, I really just enjoy hearing about how you got to where you are, and it's been like an absolute inspiration. Which is my segue to actually speaking of inspiration. Can you share with us a person or persons in your life that inspired you and taught you a little bit about leadership, and like who were they and like what did they teach you?
Wow, there are so many. I really grab quotes from, like, listen, and there are nuggets that people tell me. One of them I've mentioned is no longer with us, but she was the vice president for student affairs at UAB, who really hired me and kind of launched me on my journey. And one of the things that she taught me, vice presidents of anything at a university, and deans and department chairs and directors of advising, they have so many things on their plate. There are so many different pressures coming at them, so many things to do, so many ideas to launch. What do you stop, start, and continue? How do you connect them? Where are the controversies? And I asked her one time, how does she keep it all straight? There's just so much to do, and so many things coming at her and at those positions. And she, without kind of missing a beat, she told me there's always a thread. There are always threads that run through all of them. And if you can find the threads, what connects them all, then you can make sense of where they kind of fit in priority lists and next steps, and what literature you need to dig into, and that kind of thing. And so rather than kind of thinking about things as separate tasks, which I'm a list maker, so I tend to make a lot of lists, but I try to make connected lists. And so Jenny Gauld, her name was Jenny Gauld, and so she was a great leader who taught me and let me in on the inside of things that were really important to see as I was kind of growing as a professional. My grandfather was a teacher, a principal, and then eventually a superintendent of schools in DuPage County in Northern Illinois. And he was also a farmer and a woodworker. And so he taught me about how to balance life and work, and how to bring compassion to the people that he was working with. My father was a professor and a music conductor, and I still learn from him today, for sure. Taught me a lot about how to bring kind of when you need to bring emotional energy, when you need to bring intellectual energy, and when you need to just do tasks. And so kind of finding that balance. And my mother, who is no longer with us either, she didn't go to college. And so it was this really interesting, diverse household I lived in, with this, from a family of educators on this side, and really blue collar family on the other side. But my mom was a voracious reader, and she read everything. Back in the day, they had Book of the Month Club or something, and then so whoever, whatever parent or whoever was in there, had these like stacks of books up on the on the thing. And so she was very creative and loved to read to me. And So those are just a few really important people. There are 1,000 others, but I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. I was planning out questions to ask you today, and I'm going to deviate a little bit from my plan because I've heard you mention the word balance a couple of times, which I think maybe we can talk about because you've described a lot of things that you do. Many of us out there probably are doing a lot of things, trying to juggle, personal, professional, etc. Do you have like thoughts about that, insight, advice, words of wisdom about how to maintain balance, things like that?
I am not a role model in that. I say it's important, and I feel like I'm not very good at it most of the time, but I do know when I'm out of balance, I guess. And that's not a good feeling. And each of us knows how to kind of find that level. Again, I am very much task oriented. Lists, the calendar is king, and all of that. And I've just had to learn to build in rest time and to build in. I need to look forward to something that is fun to get the things done that are small f fun, so that are that are professionally fun. And there's a lot of fun in the work that I do, but so there are some people, and you have to kind of know yourself. Some people, I have a friend who can't have, she needs something not on her calendar, even if she don't want to put a fun thing on her calendar, even, because that's just another thing on her calendar. For me, if I know I'm going to go play golf with my husband on a Saturday afternoon, that helps me on Friday. Or if I'm going to, plan to take a walk or see my kid or, whatever, then I have to kind of build that in. So, I don't know. The pandemic's been tough for balance. I think it's been tougher than ever the last 2 years, because just the back to back to back. So building in just margins, I've had to do. I've got this rule that I've not been able to get traction on. Maybe this will be the time. It's that every Zoom meeting should end at least 5 minutes before the top of the hour, if not 7 or 8 or 10. And it's because we tend to go back to back to back and just, we've got 1 more minute left. So anybody else want to give us a dissertation on the state of higher education and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, let me go get a drink of water or a cup of tea or take a breath. So let's proclaim it here and now, the rule that there should always be at least 5 minutes before the scheduled end of the meeting, that we just stop.
I really appreciate that. I've also been trying to do that at my work, although my coworkers may not know about my plan, so I have to communicate this to them as well.
Yeah, I tell them right up front, just so you know, we're going until 55 after the hour, whatever time zone you're in, if not before. And if we're done, we're done. Let's just not fill up the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do.
Yes. I appreciate you talking about that because I think it's very real. We want to avoid our burning out and things like that. I was going to transition to a different type of question. You mentioned, or in the bio, we talked about how you are very involved in the PhD program and leadership and advising at Kansas State University. And I don't want to overlap with like any other podcast you may be doing to promote the PhD program, but can you talk a little bit about what that program is, like what's exciting about it? Things like that.
I'd love to. And I don't think there's any other podcast where we talk about that. So yeah, the graduate programs at Kansas State University with regard to academic advising have been running for a while. Really important partnership between the College of Education and NACADA for many, many years. The certificate program, is a 15-hour program that is post college program. Really the foundational aspects of advising, and a lot of folks come into that either wanting to get to know more about advising or becoming an advisor. Or I was just talking to an associate dean a few weeks ago who just moved to a different kind of part of her university, and now she's oversees academic advising, and she's enrolled in the certificate program to just learn more about academic advising, how it's supposed to be, really how it's supposed to be run. And so that was cool. And then the master's program's been going for quite some time now, and lots of NACADA members in that, and others, some who just want that master's degree and they're already in advising, but many who are not yet in academic advising and want to be. That might be high school guidance counselors or some other role, and so they're into that. But about 3 years ago, maybe 4, we started, probably 5 years ago, we started planning the new PhD program within the department, as a natural next step for it. The Dean Debbie Mercer has been really supportive. Chair of the department at the time, Ken Huey, really got it birthed. And the rest of the faculty, Christy Kraft, who's now the department chair of the department, Dr. Doris Carroll, Dr. Lisa Rubin, who is co-editor of the NACADA Journal, Dr. Craig McGill, who many know, and Dr. Lydia Young, who's our statistician. And we collectively and in great collegial collaboration developed this PhD program. Our first cohort is about to take their last classes in the summer. So we have 11 as a cohort-based program. We have 11 wonderful scholars, practitioners who are in the program, who are finishing out their coursework, and they'll start in on preliminary exams and dissertation next year. We just brought in fact, last night, met with our brand new cohort. We start every 2 years. And so our new cohort members have been selected, and we just met formally last night and a few weeks ago. They'll start their coursework in the summer. It is as I said, a cohort program, and so they go 7 semesters in a row, 2 courses a semester. So summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer. So they get done with coursework in a pretty quick amount of time. It's pretty intensive, and then doing dissertations. But we have a wonderful group of cohort members that we'll announce officially very soon, from all kinds of institutions and all kinds of lenses. And they dig deep into higher ed issues, obviously, and issues really germane to academic advising, and particularly leadership of academic advising, and related curriculum, and spanning academic affairs, student affairs, and that kind of thing. And they've got some amazing research ideas going. Some are publishing already. So it's a lot of fun. So we'll start our next cohort. We'll start recruiting next year for cohort 3. So if you want any more information, be sure to let me know, because we have a lot of fun. It's a really, really good group.
So that actually leads to my penultimate question, which is, what are some, in your other role as in the Center of Research, what are some exciting projects, research projects that you all have been working on that we can look forward to?
Oh, that's a great question. So, in the Research Center, and I say we, it's me and 50% of Elisa Schaefer, but a number of other just really wonderful scholars and members who help with projects. We've done a lot of professional development. We've got new e-tutorials, Research 101 e-tutorials. We think that's really important. The Virtual Research Institute will be May 18th through 20. By the time we air, it might be too late to get in, but doesn't hurt to ask. But that's a lot of fun. But we've been working on a number of projects that are really coming to fruition now. One is called Advising During COVID. Got to do it. So a research team from Region 10 and I are doing this project. We asked NACADA members, what was advising like? What is it like now? How are you transitioning? What has worked? What is still a struggle? What does your institution expect of you? How are you doing assessment? How is the priorities have changed? And so we're deep analyzing qualitative data right now, and we hope that that report comes out this summer, we hope. And then we're going to do a presentation on it at the annual conference. We just got the word that we were selected for that. So that'll be an important study to just kind of hear the voices of others. It serves as kind of a level setting. Some are really finding that they have been asked to be very creative, and others are really struggling. I mean, I think everyone's struggling, but the extent to which the institution values academic advising has been really revealed over this last 2 years. I'm doing a study on how academic advisors are supported, rewarded to get involved with scholarship or not. How they feel a part of a scholarly community or not at their institution. And so there's going to be a little survey that goes out to get people to respond to that kind of thing. Another study that is about to launch with 2 of the doctoral students in our cohort is about how academic advisors view their lanes when it comes to conversations about finances, about staying in school, not about financial aid regulations, about how do I stay in school? How do I make school a priority? How do I pay for it? And the extent to which advisors feel comfortable having those conversations with their students or not, how the institution provides professional development or not, and connected with that, how they talk about career planning. There's courses in your major, but how do we talk about the decisions about kind of where they're headed with their professional goals? So that study is going to launch. We have another study called, my working title right now is The Metrics of Advising. That one is a follow-up to the inconsistencies report that is on the website. And that is, we say that academic advising influences student success, that we have an impact on student success, but we have very little evidence of that, quite frankly. And so, and we know from previous studies that under 50% of institutions actually require students to meet with an academic advisor. And of those, you don't actually have to meet with an advisor always. And it's kind of the "it depends" response that we get a lot. Well, if they're on probation, if they are in whatever, and if they are transferring or whatever. So the metrics project is, so how do you track your interactions with students? What can you claim as an intervention? And what evidence do you have that you made any difference at all? Because a lot happens between that single 10-minute meeting to release a hold and persistence, retention, graduation rates, much less success in classes. But we tend to use grades, retention numbers, which is a binary, 1 or a 0, they stayed or they didn't, and graduation rates as proxies for the learning things that we do in academic advising. And when advising is more than releasing holds, which we hope it is, and this relational conversation that we have with students, and this more systematic way of interacting with them, when you can go like, your face looks different today than it did last month. What's going on with you? And what's wrong? And how can I help? Now we can start kind of documenting the influences, the interactions that we're having. So this study, we're really struggling with how to ask these questions, quite frankly. But we want to know how institutions are kind of tracking their interventions, and then how can we connect that to success of students. Sometimes it's those one sentence, I said something, it clicked. The student came back 2 years later and said, if you didn't say that thing, I was about ready to leave. Well, how do you track that? And I don't want to say that advising should be all evidence-based. But if we're going to claim that we have an influence, then we have to have some kind of documentation. Two other projects I'll mention. One is, this may be a little premature, but I don't think it is. We've been piloting for over 2 years now, 2 major instruments, and for institutions to eventually be able to use. One is called the Student Outcomes of Advising Survey. One's called the Faculty Staff Outcomes of Advising. These are paired instruments that can be done on a campus. We're piloting them, the newest versions now. And we have 2 institutions who are using those. If you know the kinds of surveys that are out in the higher ed marketplace that kind of do this kind of annual, you sign up to be a part of it, and then you get results and you get dashboards and that kind of thing, that's what this is going to be. And we hope within the next couple months to announce a lot more information about how institutions can do that. And we've got a number of paired items between what students say is how frequently they have particular kinds of conversations, and then how important is that to them, paired with faculty staff, what faculty staff say, advisors say that they have the nature of those conversations, and is that important? So we can do some gap analysis with that. So that's exciting. The final one I will mention is going to be a common data set for academic advising at institutions. So where most surveys are individual responses, I get the survey, here's what I feel, here's my perception, here's my self-report. This will be an institutional response to what is academic advising on at your institution. We'll set up institutional profiles for that, and do you have faculty advisors on your campus? Do you have a first-year center where primary role advisors, and then you move to the majors, for example? What is academic advising on your campus? There'll be a single institutional response, and then each year the idea is to update that profile. So not only are we going to be recruiting participants for various research projects, we're also going to be recruiting kind of panels of experts to help us kind of vet these instruments and how things are worded and kind of what's important, what isn't, because we've all got those surveys that take 45 or 50 minutes, and that shouldn't take that. So we're really interested in kind of more smaller, more focused studies. So lots going on in the research center, and lots more to come.
I was just going to say, like, Wendy, all these projects sound amazing and super exciting, and I can just feel that they're just going to really contribute to the professionalization of our field. So I'm just really excited that all these things are going on. My last question is, if listeners out there want to get in touch with you to learn more about what you just shared, how can they reach out to you?
Sure. My email address is wgtroxel, Troxel, at KSU, Kansas State University.edu.
All right. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.